there's, Eric Weinstein, we discussed him right before we started recording, and he just appeared on Piers Morgan's show, and he mentioned that he also drilled down on Neil deGrasse Tyson, but his specific was he was critical of the peer review process. He said that on his terms, and maybe we can connect it with our conversation now, is that, like you said before, science for many people becomes a religion, science with a capital S, and they are the gatekeepers. The peer review is kind of like their own 10 commandments. And so here, my concern, Professor, is, can we solve these big questions, these big challenges, and can we truly explore those possibilities of UAPs, of non-human entities, of free energy, of understanding what gravity truly is through a peer review process where it might be corrupted in a sense, it might be...
Well, no, I mean, Eric and I are good friends. And I agree with him 100% that what peer review has become is corrupted. It is it's the tyranny of the average. And, I remember being asked once by the NIH to, design a $50 million program for doing some biology. I said, great. Okay, good. I need the following 3 people and we'll do it. And they were horrified. Oh, no. It has to be 50 people. We have to have blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm out of here. That's it. I don't need 50 people, and I'm just arrogant. Okay. I'm arrogant and I'm conceited. And I know that I'm right, most of the time, but I only need 3 other people who are as smart as me to tell me I'm wrong. I don't need a room full of people who are all going to basically pound the idea into nothing, into no creativity. So I agree with that peer review has become the worst of our imaginings. But because of that, though, science has reacted. You now have these archive servers where ideas before peer review get put on the archive servers, right? That, no, they don't have the same status as a peer review, but the idea is now out there. And at least the minimal requirement for an archive paper is that the methods and analysis and the data are available. And so I think that's frustrated scientists to answer to, at least in part, the tyranny of peer review and what it's become. So I think that's one way to do it. Yeah, I mean, there's also the open source movement, which of course is probably best exemplified in programming and computer language. Open source really drives progress so much faster, where everybody's checking and counter-checking each other. I mean, that's relatively easy to do with software. It's harder to do experimentally because, often the experiment can take a year. So your feedback loop is not a few hours. Your feedback loop is, a year, at least in biology. In physics, probably even longer. So, I think that to me is how, the ideas of energy or ET real or whatever we want to call them, you can explore them, scientifically. You can maybe set some perimeters with math. You can bring in the philosophers and the social scientists to study and think about the implications of what the math means, right? And then you go from there. But it's interesting. I mean, religions have been dealing with extra dimensions and non-human intelligences for centuries. alien, angels and demons, the spirits of the forest, the jinn of the Quran, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where's heaven and hell? It's another dimension. Are heaven and hell even in the same dimension? Are they different places altogether? I mean, religions struggle with these ideas, but human mind can already encompass the possibility that they exist and have done so since the most primitive of men. That's amazing to me.
That also blows my mind as well. That I was just discussing with one of my best friends that maybe science in its way and the way we're doing modern science right now will just confirm those questions,
Yes.
those answers that they were discussing thousands of years before.